Okay, hi everyone. The topic that I would like to share today is how you should. Hi everyone. The topic that I would like to share today is how to develop the research question and research objective. Right? If you are just a beginning, if you do not have any idea on what the research question is, it is always good to find out. From the Google, right? You tap the for the research question, you can see there are so many articles that is appeared, right? So you can read a few articles there. You will able to have the better understanding on the what the research question is, right? So basically, research question is derived from the based on your research problem. Based on the problem, you have to ask a question: how you going to sort it out? How you going to solve the research problem is, right? So that's why research question is a very essential to guide your research paper or your project, right? So research question, it should be focused on the single problem. So you have to ensure that your research question, it has to be solved to the research problem. Each research question solved to each research problem, right? And secondly is where your research question, it has to be make sure that you will able to answer your research question through the primary or secondary data. It means that through the data survey questionnaire or through the interview, right, where you were able to find out the answers, how to answer the research question. Second is where from the secondary sources. Secondary sources are where such as the cases, reports that's done by the individual organizations. So based on the finding already being provided by those individual organization, you can use it and support in your research to answer your research question, right? So your another thing is where your research question, it has to be feasible enough, right? It has to be according to the time frame, right? But it should not be you have to ensure that it has to be practically applicable as well, right? And besides that, your research question should be specific enough to answer thoroughly, right? And research question, it should be complex enough to develop the answer. Of course, if you develop the research question and able to answer, there is no point that where you able to solve the research problem. So you have to ensure that your research question, it has to be able to address to the how to solve the questions. And lastly is where it has to be relevant, right? Okay, shall we look at how the example of research question will be, right? As I told you earlier, your research questions are always from the research problem. If you look at the first research problem is where the teacher at the school do not have the skill to recognize or guide the gifted children in classroom. This is a problem that of the research. So in this case is where what practical technique can teacher use in order to have a better identify and guide the gifted children, right? So your research questions are where trying to find out what practical technique that you should use in order to properly guide to this gifted children in the classroom, right? Second research problem is where under the 30 people who are belong to the 30 years of age, they increasingly engage in the gig economy, right? So what would be the research question would be like, right? Research question is where you are sorting out of the research problem. So in this case is where what are the main factors that influence the young people decision to engage in gig economy, right? So from here you can see this is where each research question you must reflect to each research problem, right? So from there you will able to identify how you're going to solve the research problem, right? The next is where how to write the research objective, right? So basically, again, right, if you want to have an idea on what is the research objective, how does it different from the research question, there are also so many articles that it is being provided on the online. You will easily find and read it and have a better understanding, right? So basically, research objective is where it has to be specific enough, right? It has to be measurable, it has to be achievable, it has to be relevant. It has you have to ensure that it must be within the particular period of time, right? So if you look at the research problem according to your objective, right, you can use the different type of terms in order to develop the research objective, right? So for example, where if your research is trying to understand something, right, so in this case is where identifying the factors or exploring the factors, right? If your research objective is where trying to apply the theory, so in this case is where apply the particular certain theory in this particular context of the study, right? Your research objective will be where. If your research objective is talking about analyzing, so in this case is where examine the relationship between one variable to another variable, right? If your research objective is we're talking about synthesizing, so in this case is where, for example, your research objective is trying to formulate or design the research model, right, for the particular context of the study, right? It can be one of your research objective, right? Lastly is we're evaluating your research objective. Also, it can be based on the recommendation as well, right? So basically, how you develop the research objective is where based on what you want to achieve. It has to be linked to the research question. And finally, it has to be resolved with the research objective, right? Always remember research problem, research question, research objectives are always linked to each other, right? Okay, shall we look at this research question and research objective, right? If you refer to my previous video, part 1 and part 2, right, where I have explained to you about the research problem is, right? So you can look at here clearly, based on the each research problem, how the each research question and research objectives has been developed, right? If you look at the first research problem is where, the existing researchers are recommending future researchers to look into it, right? What are the purpose why, what is the reason why people are using the social media? So in this case, your research question is, well, what are the factors that impact the use of social media? Your research objective will investigate the factor that impact the use of social media, or identify the factor that impact the use of social media, right? Okay, second research problem will be where some authors saying that some researchers saying that social media has a beneficial to the young people. Some of the researchers say that no, it's not beneficial at all. It has even make the young people lonely, right? And it has also impact in terms of their mental health as well. So there are research that still unsure what is the still argumentative stage. So in this case is where your research question is, does the frequent use of social media impact the psychological well-being? Your research objective is where investigate the frequent use of social media impact the psychological well-being, right? Shall we look at the third research problem? The third research problem is where consequences of using social media different based on age group, right? According to this, particular researchers have emphasized that, right? Social medias are where it reduces loneliness. But however, the consequences are different depending on the age group, right? Young, if you compare to the younger group and the adult group, they have different findings. So we do not know the actual result of it. So in this case is where the research question will be, is there association between the social media usage and psychological well-being within the different age group? Right? Research objective will be where assess the association between social media usage and psychological well-being within the different age group, right? Okay, finally, the last research problem is talking about where consequences of using social medias differ based on the countries. Some countries feel that social medias are where it make them too lonely, but some countries feel that it is totally opposite. So in this case, your research question is where, is there association between the social media usage and psychological well-being within the different countries? Your research objective will be where assess the association between the social media usage and psychological well-being within the different countries, right? So from here, you can see is where there has to be link between the research objective, research question, research problem, right? So whether you are writing a paper or doing your thesis or project, you make sure that you must have the very concrete research problem, right? Each of the research problem, you have to come up with the questions, how you're going to go about it. And each of the research question, you must have the research objective to answer it. So only then with the research objective, refer to the research question will be able to solve the research problem, right? Once you have the clear understanding and able to identify the research problem and develop the research question and objective, which are related to each other, that means that the quarter of your research is already being doing great, right? So I hope that from this particular short video, I hope that you have a basic understanding on the what is different between the research question and objective, how you can develop research question and objective, and that reflect to the research problem, right? Okay, thank you.